Hey, shalom. So glad you guys are here. Tonight I have pre recorded this teaching, but hopefully I'll be able to be with you live in the chat, to help you out as things go along, all right? And of course, most people watch it later anyway. Let's get started. We are in Exodus chapter 23, verse 25. And it says, Va'avadtem. So the verb is avad, which is to serve, right? Or it can also mean to worship. But avad, to serve. Avad tem. The tem at the end of a verb means y'all. Y'all, like you all. And the vav changes the time here. The aspect. So va'avad tem. And you all will serve instead of you served. Et Adonai. Elohechem. This is the Elohim of Chem, the God of you all, your God. Uverach et lachmecha. So this is, berach means he blessed. Uverach means and he will bless, like Baruch, right? Et is the DDO. Lachmecha. So this might be a little harder to recognize, unless you've really been paying attention to what I've been saying lately about the pattern of words that go right? Or at least the first part of it is For example, melech, right? Melech is king. My king, malki. Your king, malkecha. Sefer is scroll or book. Safri is my scroll or book. Safrecha is your scroll or book. Lechem is bread or food. Lachmi is my bread or my food. Lachmecha is your bread or your food. By the way, sorry for the camera quality tonight. My SLR is acting up again. So I thought we're out of the woods, but it don't want to play. So Baruch Hashem, we had that. It's funny, I just showed you the dragon backup the other day, and so we're using the dragon cam. All right. Ve'et, and, don't translate the et, meimecha. So this is from mayim, and we drop the mem to make it say mayim of. So may of cha, of you, right? Yeah, and actually I just realized, you'd expect meyecha, right? But it reduplicates the mem in this form, so I guess you just really have to know that. So the mayim of cha, the waters of you, or water of you. V'hasiroti machala. Now this is to remove. It's the root sur, and it's a hollow verb. And if you remember, when you have a verb whose middle letter is vav or yod, they oftentimes will disappear. And that's what happened here. We're left only with the sin and with the resh there. And the hey tells us it's a causative part. So sur is like to turn or to, right? Like to turn or to go away. And then ha at the beginning means to cause to turn or to cause to go away. So to remove, right? Hasiroti means I removed. The T at the end should remind you of the end of ani or anochi, I. Va hasiroti means and I removed. Now I want to talk about the vav pointing here just for a sec. If you don't care about this, it's fine, as long as you recognize and understand. But some people, they want to have kind of all the nitty gritty, so I'm just going to go in a little bit of detail here why we have a ah underneath it here, okay? So what's happening is, usually with a vav, we will point it vav at the beginning of the word and a schwa, right? Unless you've got the bump schwa thing happening, right? If the word starts with b, m, or p, or it has a letter that has a schwa under it, then the vav changes to u, all right? Now, things are a little bit different if it's what we call a composite schwa. You see this guy, if you look real closely, it's like a colon, and then there's a vowel sound. That's a composite schwa, or in this case, it's called chatuf patuch, right? It's like a half patach. Okay, so what we do in that case, since we can't have two schwas in a row, not even a schwa and a composite schwa, and this happens not just with vav, this will happen also with inseparable prepositions like beit and kaf and lamed, because when you put them in front of a word, they also like to have the schwa, but there's no bump rule for them. They never go ooh. Okay, but they will do the same thing that's happening here. So this is actually a decent pattern to recognize. So instead of lengthening to the shortest normal vowel chirik, one dot, it copies the vowel sound of the composite schwa. So the ah gets copied over here. That's why that's happening, okay? So va instead of ve hasiroti, an impossible form, you can't have that. So va hasiroti, and I will remove machala. Machala means sickness. So that's nice. Nice thing to have removed. Now the Rashbam, he comments in the Mikot Gedolah that the reason the sickness will be removed is because he's giving us good water, right? So even in his day and age, they recognize that bad water could lead, cholera and dysentery, all this kind of stuff. Diseases came from bad water. So he's reasoning that because Hashem is going to berach et lachmecha and also et meimecha, that would result in him removing machala because he's doing the blessing, right? So the Rashbam tends to be pretty logical, is saying it's not that he's going to magically remove diseases from people or like do this miracle necessarily, but he's going to give us clean water supplies. I'm not saying that's the case, just sharing that. I thought some people might find that interesting. Okay. Mikil becha. Mi, this is min, meaning from, and it contracted. We made a contraction. Just like in English, you can say can, not. You can make it say can't, right? Same thing's happening here. This was min, kerev of cha, right? So min, the noon assimilated. That's why there's a dot in the kof there. So mik, kil, becha. So from the kerev, from the midst or the inside of cha, of you. So kerev also means your innards, like your kishki, your guts and stuff. Okay? All right, and now we have a nice big white space there. Sorry, I tried to adjust my camera if you noticed any kind of weird jiggle in the video. All right, verse kaf vav. That's kaf vav. That's 20 and 6. 26. Lo tihyeh mishakela v'akara be'artzecha. Okay. Lo, not, tihyeh. So this is the verb haya. Haya, to be or to become. And the tav at the beginning, this shows us it can either be like from ata, you. So lo tihyeh means you will not be or you will not become, or it could be she. Those forms are written exactly the same with this form of a verb, the imperfect form of a verb. In this case, it's she because we have feminine that is following, okay? So, lo tihyeh, there will not be, meshakela. So this is an interesting word. It's from the root, very obviously, shin, kaf, lamed. And this root, if it's in the kal, the kind of basic form, it means to become childless, right? So, for example, you already have a child. It could be an adult child, and then say he dies in war or something like this. That's what that would mean. But notice this is in the piel. There's a strong dagesh in the second root letter. So when we see this, the piel, it's like an intensive meaning. So it usually results in just very clear intensive, like with the verb shavar, to break. Shiber means to utterly smash to pieces, right? So that's very clearly intensive. Although sometimes the intensification of the meaning of the root from the kal meaning the light version, like not heavy, it can make a causative effect, and that's what it means here, right? So to cause to be childless. So really this has to do with having a miscarriage, right? So lo tihyeh mishakela. So there will not be one who miscarries. That's a feminine form, right? And that's why we have the tav here. Remember I said it can be you talking to a man, or it can be she about a woman. Va'akara, vav, or an akara. An akara is a barren woman, a woman who cannot become pregnant. And you'll notice, look, the same thing is happening with the vav here, the pointing of the vav that we had up here. Exact same thing. Hold on, there's some weird crosshairs on my screen. There we go, they're gone. See, look, ah. So you'll see this pattern quite a bit once you recognize it. Where? Be'artzecha. In the eretz of cha. And remember, we had that pattern, lachmecha, right? The words that are lechem. Well, eretz is land. So lachmecha is your bread or your food. Artzecha is your land or Yeah, your land, or it could be your yeah. Good land is good enough there. We won't make it the world, your world. Now you might say, wait, Yirmeyah, what are you talking about? There's a here. They're not the same. They're not the same. You're right. Here they're not the same, but usually it would be be'atzecha, just like belach mecha. There's a zavuv, there's a fly belach mecha in your food, right? In your bread. There's a nation, there's a goy be'atzecha in your land. What happens is, you see this little wishbone guy here? Let me see if I can get a bit closer. Okay, it doesn't want to stay that low, so I'm just going to have to hold it for a second. There, the wishbone. Wishbone. Okay, that guy goes by different names depending on tradition. I learned it as etnachta. Some learn it as etnachta. Some learn atnach. Some etnach. So whatever. Let's go with wishbone. Okay. So this wishbone symbol. This is the ta'am, the sense sign. Right. These signs, it's our traditional Jewish way of interpreting the text. Right. It gives you another layer of interpretation on the text. And what this one does is it tells us that this is the end of the clause. Or as the rabbis say, the etnachta owns the words before it. Okay, so this little guy has something to do with what's coming after him. This guy also, but it's a little bit distinct. There's a pause. These two are relating to each other, as very well you can see. Misakela v'akara. Sorry, I'll make sure to say the words for those of you listening only. One who has a miscarriage, one who miscarries, or one who is barren. And then the etnachta is like the end of it, right? Be'artzecha. And because of that, it gets an extra oomph to it. So just like in most languages, tonal language is a little bit exception, but most, let's say, Indo-European languages, when you have a word, it's got multiple syllables, and usually one of them has the oomph, right? Like lo tihye meshakela va'akara, right? You hear it's same thing in English. I am going to break dance, right? Not break dance, break dance, right? Anyway, maybe we won't. But what's interesting about the Masoretic tradition in biblical Hebrew is not only does each word have an accented syllable, but each verse has at least one word that's the accented word. Like if you pretended all the words are syllables, that's the syllable getting accented. And only very short verses just have one. Most verses have two. So it's the end of the first clause, and then the end of the second clause, which would be the sof pasuk. Here we have the siluk. That's the end of the last word in the verse. Okay. So what it means when they have that extra oomph, you say them a bit harder, and there's a bit of a pause after them, right? And this is a very ancient tradition. I think I've shared before that there are fragments from Septuagint, from the first or second century BCE, so that's like 100 or 200 years before the birth of Yeshua, where they have the gaps in the words that match our tradition of these accent marks. So it's kind of amazing, like how much pause you're supposed to put after each one. And in fact, that's the grammatical term of this. I didn't even mean to say that. The term is being in pause, or pausal, if you want to Google about it. So this word is in pause. When a word is in pause, meaning it gets that extra oomph, when it's possible. Not all vowels can lengthen. The full vowels, they won't lengthen, right? But many vowels will. And in this case, look what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be lach mecha, right? Artzecha. So it's supposed to be a vocal schwa there. Two schwas in a row. The first one will always be silent. Second one will always be vocal. So here we have our silent schwa, ar, and then we would expect se, like just a little eh. But what happens when it's in pause, that super little eh lengthens to the short vowel segol, those three dots. So that's why it changed, okay? That's why usually it would be the same thing, artzecha be'artzecha, just like lach mecha be'lach mecha, okay? But it lengthened because it's in pause. All right. Lo tichye misakela ve'akara be'artzecha. Okay, hold on, let me make sure. What am I saying? Okay. Et mispar yamecha amalei. Et mispar. Now this is interesting. Now we have special emphasis. Et usually comes after the verb, doesn't it? We expect it to come after the verb. When et, the definite direct object marker et, not eat et, that means with, okay? They look similar. So when et marks the definite direct object before the verb even shows up, in Hebrew syntax, this means we are giving extra emphasis to this word, right? Like it's being emphasized. So, et mispar yamecha, pardon me, et mispar yamecha amalehe. Okay? Mispar means number. Number. Safar can mean to count. It can also mean like to tell, right? This is where we get the word for sefer, a book, right? Or a scroll. But mispar is a number. So the number of yamecha. So this is from the word yamim, which means days, from yom. We drop the mem. Yamei means days of, cha of you. So et mispar yamecha, the number of your days, amale. Male means to fill up, to fill up. Pleroo in Greek, right? Like this is the word that matches to the Greek word used in the Jewish New Testament, which is used to when Yeshua says, "I did not come to tear down," in Matthew 5, "I did not come to tear down, to katabaino, the Torah, the law, the nomos, or the prophets," meaning those books of the Bible, right? "I came to pleroo," which is amale, to fill up, usually translated just as fulfill, but the idea is filling up, right? You've got your glass, it's maybe 70% fill, and then Yeshua, he doesn't come and dump out the glass. No more law, no more prophetical stuff, right? Not all the prophecies are fulfilled, so it doesn't even make sense, right? Why would the Torah be done with when there's prophecies that haven't even happened yet, right? So instead, it's saying he adds a little bit to it, right? Plero amale, amale. I will fill up. Fulfill in English, you can tell it's from the same root. That's why we say fulfill. But I think kind of the essence in English of fulfill being related to fill up is sometimes lost. So it's nice occasionally to be hyper literal, right? So amale, I will fill. So you're the mispar yamecha amale, the number of your days, I will fill. Meaning, of course, he'll give us long life. Yeah, and there'll be good days too. It's implied that there'll be good days. So just as the Torah was not done away with, and the prophets were not done away with, but there was more poured into the cup. It was filled up. Yeah. All right. I'm going to pause for a second. I need a drink. All right, and we're back. Verse Kaf Zayin 27. Et emati ashalach lefanecha. Ema, this is Aleph Yod Mem He, means terror. Terror. So Ema, it ends in the He, right? Ema. And what happens when a He reverts back to its ancient form, Tav? Emat means terror of, right? Terror of me. So emati, terror of me. And again, look, it's et. It's being emphasized. My terror, the terror of me, ashalach. Shalach is to send, and this one is the piel, so it's intense. It's got that dagesh in the second root letter there. So send out, right? Send out or send forth. And then the aleph at the beginning, just like the aleph in front of male, amale, I will fill up. Ashalach, I will send out. So my terror, he's psyching people up, right? My terror, et emati, ashalach lefanecha, before you. And this word you should just kind of be used to seeing by now, right? I hope you're used to it, so that every time we don't have to say lefanim, faces or face, drop the mem, faces of, cha of you, which is how we say lifnei is in the presence of, right? In the presence of cha, you. All right. V'hamotihi et kol ha'am asher tavo bahem. See, there's our etnachta. We'll stop there. Okay. V'hamoti et kol ha'am. Okay, so hamoti, this is from the verb hamam, which is like to be confused or to bring confusion. It can also mean like to bring into motion, right? Like specifically in military usage. It's not that common of a word. I think probably less than 10 times in the Tanakh. So don't confuse the hey as being marking the he feel. This is actually from hamam. And you might think, why is there a dagesh here? Well, the dagesh is there because this is a geminite. Words that are geminite, it means like Gemini, think of the constellation Gemini, the twins or whatever. It means two of the root letters are the same, hamam. And when that happens, often they will collapse and we get a strong dagesh, just showing us that one of them assimilated the other one. Okay? So hamoti means I brought confusion, right? Ve hamoti, the vav changes the aspect, so we will translate it in the future. Ve hamoti, and I will confuse. I will bring into confusion. It can also mean disturb sometimes if it's followed with a mem, but we don't have that here. I will confuse et kol, all of ha'am, of the am, all of the people. Asher hu tavo bahen. Okay. So instead of who, this is actually going to be where. Sorry, I had to glance ahead. So asher can mean who, which, where, or when. Right. So it's kind of got some possibilities. So where tavo, bo is to come or to go, and the tav says you, right? So asher, where tavo, where ta should remind you of ata, meaning you, where ta will vo, where you will go. Bahem, the bait is in or among, and the hem means them. So bahem, among them. Okay, and then let's continue. Continuing verse 27, B, so this would be the second part of the verse. Venatati, pardon me, Venatati et kol oivecha elecha oref. Okay. Venatati. So this is the verb natan. And you can tell there's a dagesh in that second tav, right? So it was natan. So theoretically, in ancient Hebrew, this probably was natanti, which would be nice because we have all three root letters and you can recognize it easily. Natanti. Isn't that ironic? Ancient Hebrew might be easier to read than biblical Hebrew. Well, not necessarily. It also had some other complexities that only show up in some of the Psalms. So natanti, that nun assimilates. That's why there's a strong dagesh, the dot inside that tav. The T being the ending for me, for I, right? So natanti means I am giving, right? Pardon me, I gave. And then venatati means I will give. And I will give et kol oivecha. Kol, all of oivecha. This is the oyev. And oyev is an enemy. And oyevim are enemies. Drop the mem to make it say of. Oyevim, so oyeve, the oyve of cha, right? The enemies of cha, of you. So oyevecha. So venatati, remember, it can be give or it can be a sign, set, or place. Okay, we'll just keep it literal with give for now. Venatati et kol oivecha, and I will give all of your enemies elecha, unto cha, unto you. Oref. So it's a bit of a strange expression, but we're talking military stuff here, right? We had hamam, right? So oref is the back of the neck. I think that's called the nape of the neck, right, in English? The back of the neck. The idea is Hashem's going to cause them to run away, so we see the back of their neck, you see? So it's kind of a nice Hebraism there. All right, let's see. Okay, 23 minutes in, making decent time. Let's keep going. Verse Kaf Chet. Veshalachti et hatzirah lefanecha. So, interesting. So shalach is send. Shalachti, I sent. Veshalachti, and I will send. Et, we don't translate. Hatzirah. So this quite literally means like a wasp, some kind of wasp, a stinging animal. Although there are some commenters who believe, because of the parallelism of this with Ema, up above, Emati, my terror, that this also means some kind of fear, right? But anyway, it's fine to say literally wasp. Although in modern times, when Israel goes out and attacks, I'm not sure that wasps are out there, right? But for certain, there have been times when the terror went out. So there might be something to that. Where will he send it? Lefanecha, before you, before you. Vegeresha et hachivi. Okay. Vegeresha et hachivi et hakenaadi ואת החיתי מלפניך. Okay. Garash is to drive, like to drive, not like drive a car, but like to drive cattle, right? You can drive sheep, you can garash sheep. Here, it's feminine because it's gerasha, because the subject is hatzirah, the wasp, right? Or if it means fear, or it could be a metaphor for fear. So the geresha, and so she will drive out et hachachivi, the chivi, et hakenaani, the kenaani, et hachiti, and the chiti. I'm not translating these into English because I don't think you need me to do that. They're proper names. Milefanecha, from before you. This is interesting, kind of a Phoenicianism here. Did we really need to say from to your faces, right? From your presence? I mean, from to your presence? Well, anyway, the Phoenician likes to stack up prefixes like that a lot, so it's kind of interesting. Which actually would make sense for Moshe to do this sometimes, because as a son of Pharaoh's daughter, he probably would have grown up with certain expectations to be done for the kingdom, and as maybe an ambassador or writing letters to foreign powers. And in those days, Akkadian, another Semitic language, was the international language. So he probably knew Akkadian, and it would have made sense to know Phoenician if having contact with the Canaanites and stuff. So anyway, so you could see that kind of influence in his Hebrew sometimes. Anyway, or not. Please don't be offended from that. Milefanecha. All right. 27 minutes in. Let me just get another drink of water real quickly. Actually, maybe we'll go on. We'll just keep pushing through. Verse Kaf Tet, 29. Lo agareshenu mipanecha b'shana echat. Okay. Lo, not agareshenu. So garash is to drive or to drive out. The aleph at the beginning tells us it's like ani or anochi, I. So not agarashenu, I will not drive out nu, him, it, mipanecha, from before you. Notice here it's not milifanecha, it's just mipanecha, more expected. From before you, b'shana, in a shana, you guys remember shana? The cycle, right? That's a year. In a year, what kind of year? There's an adjective following, and it's a numeral. Echat. Echat is the feminine form of echad, right? So a single year in 1 year. Verse. Okay. Oh, sorry. Continuing. Pentihyehe haaretz shemamaha v'raba alecha chayat hasadeh. Okay. So now he's going to tell us why the first clause is true. Why won't he drive them out immediately? Why not? Pen. This is hard to translate into English. I mean, lest is really the best English word I know, though that sounds kind of old. Otherwise, you got to be very wordy and say, so that not. Okay, that's what pen means, so that not. Tichye. Haya is to be or to exist. Tichye means you will be or she will be. In this case, it's she will be because the subject follows. What's the subject? Haaretz, the land. So that not the land will be shemama. Shemama is like desolate. Desolate. We have prophecies that this is what the land of Israel will be like when the Jewish people, or if the Jewish people are driven from it, right? And quite incredibly, when Mark Twain visited Israel in the 1800s, he wrote what a desolate wasteland it was, right? Now that we're back, now Israel exports oranges to Europe. I remember finding Israeli oranges in Germany and stuff at the grocery store, marked product of Israel and all this stuff. So really quite amazing seeing these. But anyway, so this one's not a prophecy, but it's using the same word, shemama, right? So Shemama can also be, so it can be a wasteland, yeah, like this, okay? So that the earth will not be a wasteland or like too emptied out. The Rabbah, and numerous, alecha, against you. Now we have to imply English will be chayat hasadeh, the animal of the field, right? So meaning like wild animals are going to be a problem for us. Bears, and better let the Canaanites be animal fodder for a while. That's what Hashem's saying. All right, just a sec. Okay, continuing. Verse Lamed, that's 30. And yeah, that might be a decent stopping place after this verse. Because I'm worried about the time for YouTube to process this also. Okay? Me'at, me'at, agarashenu, me'panecha. Me'at means little by little. Little by little. Hello, Ziggy. Let's be part of it. Down you go, Ziggy Bear. Sorry. Okay. Me'at, me'at. Agarashenu. I will drive it out. Mipanecha, from before you. Ad, until. Asher, when. Tifrei, v'nachal ta et haaretz. Okay. Ad, until. Sorry, I had a cat issue. Until. Tifrei, it will bear fruit. V'nachalta, nachal is to inherit or to possess. Nachalta, the ta reminds us of ata, you. Nachalta, you inherited or you possessed. V'nachalta, and you will possess et ha aret. So, ad asher tifrei v'nachalta et haaretz. Okay, good. So I think that's a good stopping point. I want to make sure that YouTube can process it all in time. So you guys, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them down below in the comments section, and I will try to get to them as soon as possible. If you'd like to join our online community for Hebrew learners, whatever your sect or denomination is, whether you're Jewish or you're Baptist or you're Methodist, or your any other flavor under the sun, you're B'nai Israel, you're Messianic, or whatever, everybody's welcome. We have a chat room specifically about biblical Hebrew. Most of us, we do accept the Messiah, so, but, you know, we won't hold it against you if you don't. If you want to learn biblical Hebrew, I believe this will eventually bring you to that knowledge. But if you'd like, please join us on Telegram. This app is available on Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android. And our channel is https://t.me, like me, slash, all one word, just like this YouTube channel name, Hebrew Literacy. All right, you can come join us over there. We got over 100 people. We help each other out and share comments and ask Hebrew questions. And, you know, maybe you're embarrassed to ask me sometimes something, or you can just ask and another student can answer, and that'll help like 10 other people. So I'd really like to see you over there. All right, shalom, shalom.